Hi, it's ChickenboneJohn here, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about headstocks and trying to avoid weak spots in necks generally. I was prompted to do this because somebody posted up on the UK cigar box guitar group on Facebook about they thought they might have had a problem in terms of cutting a neck too thin in one particular part. So I'm just going to talk about this. We've got a few examples. Here's a finished one. And as you can see, it's got a tilt back headstock, Gibson style. And you should be able to see just the difference in the grain of the wood. You can't see an actual joint in terms of a glue joint, but you can see the difference in the wood where this scarf joint comes in. But you'll see this neck basically runs into the headstock in a fairly smooth transition. There's no abrupt change. Some people will put a volute which sort of comes out thicker. It's not really necessary, I don't think. If you've got a truss rod channel and you've got a hole cut here for the adjuster nut, then obviously it does take a chunk out in the middle of the neck. So adding a little bit of thickness does help. Okay, but if you have a look at this, you can see the way that works. Here's one that hasn't been cut yet, but you can see my headstock thickness. That's a bit thick. That's probably about 14 mil. See, that other one that one's about 11 or 12 mil. But I'm going to bring this neck down here to about 22 mil thickness, because what I will do is I'll add a fretboard onto that, so I've got about 26, 27 mil finished. So here's the line of cutting this, and I can run that straight into the back of the neck, or if I feel a bit fancy, put a volute on it. You can see when I glued this on, that's my splice there, that's my scarf joint there. So this piece of wood is running into here, so there's plenty of room for me to shape it. Here's another one. I'm going to do the same thing. So what I will do, I'll mark it up for 22 mil. I'll draw a line, and then I'll decide on the fly really how I'm going to cut that. I might sand that volute off altogether. Again, this is going to end up probably with a fretboard and a regular style nut, so like a Gibson style arrangement here, like that. So there's no thin point. Now there's something which I would observe on making a neck, and when we're talking about whether it's the headstock or the heel part of it, you know, you've heard the expression, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, you could say the same thing about a neck, that a neck is only as strong as its thinnest point. Now, well, let's have a look at another neck here. And this is like the typical Fender style arrangement. So this comes along, same thickness all along, and I have just cut out the top, put my fretboard on top. So there's no real thin point there. But if we'll just pan back on this. If we look at this as a neck as a whole, I want to just show you the potential weak spots. Now, my strings are going to be running from here, where my nut is, to round about here. Strings are anchored about there. So the whole thing is going to be subject to bending. It's going to want to try and pull it into a bow because of this string tension. So in actual fact, it's coming from there to where your machine heads are. And roughly in the middle, we're about here. Okay, so on this particular neck, it's around about the heel transition. That's where what we call the bending moment, the forces that are applied that want to turn this into a bow, that's where the bending is at its most severe, and it reduces down. You know, as we come to here, there's not that much bending moment applied, but here and here. You know, if you think about that, so if it were a bridge, you know, a bridge is going to bend most, or walking along a plank, it's going to get more whippy in the middle, providing it's simply supported between 2 points. So this is the sort of critical bit. So you will see here, it's cut to fit inside the box, but there's still a lot of meat here. This is the weakest point of the neck, where it's cut out for a pickup, but you'll still see we've got 20 mil plus here. That's the absolute minimum you want to make it. This is why we have this fairly substantial, what we call backstrap piece, glued along here. So when it bends, this is going to be a weak point, but there's still enough strength in there. Some people do get into trouble with this sort of thing, where they'll bring the heel very close to where it goes into the box. And if you can see, if you do that, you end up with that. And you know, you've only got about 12 millimeters. And it's going to bend and potentially break at that point. So likewise here, you know, that's the thinnest part, this headstock. So you want to be making sure you don't do anything silly, like scalloping the neck out and creating a very thin spot. So as I say, remember that, think about chain's as strong as its weakest link, a neck is as strong as its thinnest part. Think, you know, if you think of it as a bow, if you took a notch out of a bow, you'd see it actually hinge at a certain point. Okie doke, so there you go. Same thing with this. We've got no super thin or abrupt changes. There's plenty of material in here to give it strength. So that's the key point. Don't create a tight spot where the wood is very thin. And also, you need to understand the way this material works. This is a continuous piece. It's glued up, so it's a continuous piece. The wood, the glue works best in that manner. You can't just say, get two pieces of wood and glue them together and expect that joint to work. You know, people say, oh, well, the glues are stronger than the wood. Well, not like that, because that's just going to simply peel open. There's no strength. Wood is designed, you know, this wood glue is designed to be worked like that. If you were to bend that, this would be in compression, that would be in tension if you're bending it like that. And the mid joint is actually subject to no strain whatsoever. It's what's called the neutral axis. So something like this, if it's bending, let's say this part's in compression, this is in tension, the glue joint, there's not much happening there. But yet, so trying to reinforce things by butting things up and gluing them and expecting the end joint to do anything, it will not work. For that, you need a good overlap for that to work well. Butt joints just don't work with glue. It needs to be lapped like that to get the strength in your glue joint. Go. I've seen guitars and I've had guitars in for repair where this has been done. The neck looks fit, okay here, outside the box, and you open it up, and I've found, you know, less than a quarter of an inch, you know, 5 or 6 mil left, and the neck, this part of the neck, well, it was bent, but what was happening inside the box, it was hinging round here, so it was bent like a banana, and that was on a professional, supposedly a professional guitar. They had just ignored the fact that they created a very weak spot and the whole neck was bent like a banana, and the neck was glued into the box was glued shut, so you couldn't repair it, couldn't take the neck out without destroying the whole thing. It was expensive firewood. Okay, well, I hope that's been a useful bit of insight about how to avoid making weak spots in your guitar neck. Okay, thanks for watching and bye for now.